Today's episode of The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live, continues to impress. This is the Walking Dead series we've been waiting for. This is the epic tale of Rick and Michonne reuniting and taking on the CRM. It has a huge scope and scale, big production value, definitely an increase from all the Walking Dead shows up to this point, and it feels like an event. It feels like the franchise is back. And every one of these episodes so far, I'm getting chills up my spine. I'm getting emotional watching the show. It is everything I hoped it would be, and it exceeds my very high expectations. So I am really happy as a Walking Dead super fan. So I definitely want to see what you guys think in the comment section below, but I thought this episode was also a stellar episode. Here we got the first half of this episode is Michonne's story, catching us up to where we ended the last episode with the reunion between Rick and Michonne after the helicopter gets bombed. And then we get a little bit of a hint of what's coming next. I feel like the first half of the episode was really dense. They had new characters introduced, and it was a pretty good story. And I think that they got us to care about this new character, Nat, who I thought was a fantastic character. And then the second half of the episode, we're getting hints of the conflict that is to come, and I think that they nailed both of those aspects. My one criticism of this episode, and full spoilers for this video, so if you haven't seen it yet, please watch it and then come back. The character of Nat that they spent so much time setting up, he's this crafty guy who is good with creating things and making tools, and he had this tragic backstory, and he's a character that grew to love Michonne over time, and it was a really emotional scene between him and Michonne, and they really did a good job setting up this character, making us care about him. They kill him off halfway through the episode, and I think that that was a huge mistake. The two most interesting characters that were introduced in this show so far, Okafor and Nat, have both died on the same episode that they were introduced. And it does feel like these characters were created to solve a problem. Now, I'm glad they did the extra work of making them characters that we are interested in, but I think it's a mistake to introduce all these characters so deep into the franchise and then kill them off in the same episode. It's something they've been doing in a lot of the spin-offs up to this point, and I understand the shock value that's very much a part of the franchise so far, but I think we really need to be lifting up some new characters, because once this original main cast of Rick and Michonne and Carol and Daryl and all these characters are no longer on the series, we need to have some new characters left to carry the series forward if they want it to continue. Even if they don't want it to continue, it is nice to have characters around that we grow to like over time and have a story arc that is more than just one episode. That's the one critique I have. I felt like Okafor's death has bigger impact, and I feel like Nat's death in this episode was really just because they didn't know where to fit him in with the rest of the story. So I think it was a mistake to kill him off. Maybe there will be reasoning for that down the line, but that's my biggest criticism. Other than that, I love everything about this episode. It's got the epic scale and the scope. It's a little bit slower paced than the last episode, which had a lot more ground to cover, but I still think that everything was good. So let's just break into the breakdown. We start off with a little teaser scene of a zombie that is on fire, and he's holding gas, and he has a shirt that says, "I'm the gas man, I can help you out." And I love this image. I like having, special zombies that we see every now and again, some new gags, and I don't think we've had something quite like this before. So he creates a conflict for Michonne later in the episode. So we just got a little teaser of him here, and he's in this massive horde. So, it was a cool image, and I love him being on fire, and he's still walking forward because he's a zombie. He doesn't even know he's on fire. So that is pretty cool as a setup. And then we start off with Michonne in very tight close-up, and then they do the same thing halfway through the episode with the CRM, but she's introducing herself to a new group. There's this mystery of who she's talking to. It almost feels like she's talking to herself at first, because we know in her past that she has done that, resorted to that before. So there's a little bit of mystery there. She's introducing herself here, and we have the two characters that were introduced in season 10 of the original show. Michonne helped them out. That's not a flattering pause. Let's get a better pause for your girl Deny there. She helped them out because we're in this migratory group that moves from place to place and never stays in one place. And there's a specific reason that they wrote it that way, which we'll get back to later. But this group is constantly on the move, and if anybody falls behind, they keep moving and they leave them there. So that is very similar, oddly, to the Rings of Power show, which, not a great show, but we're not going to get sidetracked with that. The hobbits in that show, they call them something different. I don't remember what they're called. The hobbits, let's call them that. They did the same thing. They had this migration, and then people will get left behind, and then they die. But the only thing here is, they're migrating, people fall behind. Wouldn't they be able to catch up later? Because, it's not like they're moving all the time. They have to sleep at some point, right? So it's not like they're just going to not be able to catch up. If they stop to camp for the night, maybe then they can, but maybe they don't know where they're going. Maybe that's what it is. Only the person at the front knows. We need to know more information there, but there's something there. But I like the concept that they're going for. This is the same theme of sacrifice that we got a lot in the last episode. It's basically the same symbol that Rick had with the fire. Rick's father set the farm on fire in an effort to save it. So they're sacrificing certain things so that the group can survive. And it's this play of how far do you go with that? How far are you willing to go? And Michonne's a person who is not okay with sacrificing people when they can help. And I think it's a great character moment here that Michonne, she just wants a horse and stuff to get on her way. This lady here is trying to get her in the group, but Michonne's never going to go along with leaving people behind. And here we're introduced to Nat. And I love this character. This actor does a phenomenal job. They do a great job in this script at making him distinct and interesting. And he's got his own kind of Rube Goldberg machines that he's building, that he can do little things. I would love to have gotten deeper in that. That's why I wish they kept this character around, because it would have been really cool just to have a crafty guy along who can build his way out of situations and get little gadgets and just cool stuff. It would have been really great to have this character around still, I think. So it's tragedy, but maybe that's what the point of it is you want to feel that tragedy, but I do feel like we could have gotten more out of him. But I love the way he charges into this scene. He's mad that they left her own sister, because the leader of the group, it's her sister that is left behind, and she's actually pregnant, and that's her boyfriend there. And Nat comes rushing in. He doesn't even notice that they're there because he's so enraged by this. So there must not be that many situations where people end up falling behind. It must be relatively rare, which is why he's still here, right? But I love the energy he comes in with, and he's taking it to her, and then he notices that they're still alive and that Michonne helped, and that is step one to getting him on board with Michonne's mission. So then I love the music here as well, by the way. We just have this kind of Western style music. Obviously, the theme of migration fits in with the Wild West very well. The Oregon Trail and all that type of thing. That's the kind of vibe they're going for here. And there's this concept of a migration, a herd. This is something that is from the comic series as well. It's definitely convenient for the plot, but I'm cool with it. It works. Basically, there's a seasonal migration of the zombies. We don't know exactly why they're doing that, but that's the thing with the show, is we don't need to know. If we have all the answers, it is not as interesting. We're on the ground with these people. We don't necessarily have the bird's eye view of everything going on. So that's one of the things that made The Walking Dead work, so they're continuing it here. And Michonne is talking on the radio, trying to reach Judith. I appreciate that they resisted the temptation to have Judith on the radio. For one, I mean, I don't know if anybody's ever used radios, but I used to work in movies a little bit, so we use these radios on set a lot, and they don't go that far. They go like maybe 2 miles if you're lucky. It really depends on how hilly of a place you're going. So that it's something they did on Fear, where they're constantly talking on the radio, like massive distances. It just drove me nuts after a while, but I'm glad, even if, put that to the side, it makes more sense for the story not to hear Judith at this point, to have that feeling of loss, feeling of being alone, feeling of wanting to get back there, but just being torn between two places. So I love this banter between the group here. I didn't necessarily get too attached to these guys. They focused their energy on Nat, and it's really impressive how quickly they got me to care about Nat. it's only 20 minutes of episode before he gets killed off, and it feels like longer because a lot of stuff really happens and they go through a lot of different stages. But basically, Nat made this outfit for her and gave her like an explosive device and then sets her off on her way. So the explosive device that took out the helicopter at the end of the last episode, we see the origin of that and how that came to be. And then Michonne is off on her way. And I kind of like how, Nat is not really on board with this group, and we get that in this conversation. And Nat doesn't even really believe that Rick is alive, but he wants to come along because he doesn't want to be part of that group anymore. We get this massive horde, big sight lines, very CGI, but I love how you can just see forever just zombies. So that's really cool. It's probably the biggest we've ever seen. And it's fun to talk about. A lot of people, scientist types analyzing the show would be like, there's no way that there would be this many zombies left because so many people died and they're killing off zombies throughout the show. But and then there's more and more as the time goes on. That's just something you got to accept. It's fun to talk about. It's fun to analyze that and break it down. But it's a TV show. It doesn't work without having zombies in it. Okay, so you just got to accept that and move on. If that bothers you, then it's not a real criticism, but it is fun to talk about. But I love the explosive here. She shoots it off into the crowd. Boom! Zombies going everywhere. And then that draws them away. I don't know what her plan would have been if she didn't get saved here by Nat and friends. But the gas zombie from the teaser, and it is good that they had that teaser in there. It would feel a little random if we didn't get a little bit of that beforehand, that little teaser in there. It is a big coincidence that there just happens to be one there, but it works. You never know what a zombie's going to have in their pocket. I mean, they could have even had a grenade or something, like anything like that. It is the apocalypse. People would be armed, So it makes sense to me. It's fair enough. I love the zombie head flying off, knocking her off the horse. It is a little quick. We got rid of the horse, but I think it does come back. But we just got the horse, man. The horse is cool. And then I love the brain stem there, or the spine. That's just sick, dude. I love that. And then she gets saved by Nat and the people, and they're basically splitting the Red Sea, basically. So it's almost like a biblical image, which I really dig. And we have purple flame on either side, drawing the zombies away. And then they do this arbitrary time skip where they're like, let's hang out and wait for the zombies to go. When I'm like, but I would just say, shouldn't we just go while we can? But then they talk about how the fires are made to burn very long, so they do explain that. But it does lack a little bit of urgency, but you need it for the characters to be talking about, their past and whatnot, and the decisions that they made. And you go to like Nat and all the things he's got in his trailer, and he's flicking this lighter, which we get a backstory about later in the episode. And yeah, I just love all these scenes introducing these characters. And here we learn that the girlfriend, I forget these characters' names, but they're gone now, so it's fine. She is pregnant in this scene, and Michonne tries to convince her to go back to Alexandria, but they want to see it through. So now we are migrating again, and we're talking about Nat's past. And I love these scenes that we're starting to trickle in, more about pre-apocalypse and how people grew up and stuff, because I understand why they didn't do it on the main show originally, because it's more about the situation that they're in. But I do feel like people would eventually talk about this type of stuff with people. We got little bits of that here and there in the original show, but now in a lot of the spin-offs we're doing it more. Love it. And here we got Nat talking about how his dad left because he didn't want to have a little person, I think is what he said, which there's a tragedy of that. And then this new guy named Danger comes into his life, and I love this beautiful story of how Danger basically gave him things to do because Nat got bullied, and he dealt with that by setting fires in the woods. And this is definitely in with the flame theme. It's on the poster. The theme of sacrifice and flames are tied together in this show, and they are showing his aggression was a coping mechanism. So that definitely is tied in with the themes of sacrifice for the greater good and stuff. And then Danger comes in and stops him from doing that and helps him to nurture his building. Instead of destroying, he's building. And he builds these devices that solve problems for him, even though necessarily he didn't really need those things. Maybe he didn't. There's this ambiguity there, but the presumption is that he didn't really need these things for Nat. Nat, he was just trying to help Nat come into his own as a human. So I love this backstory, man, and it ties in with the theme of the full season, and it has a lot of meaning there. There's more you can analyze, and it's great. And then we get a CRM helicopter flying by, and I love the first shot. We see it in a window first, and that's called back, of course, to the pilot episode, where we didn't even see the helicopter straight on. We saw it reflected in a skyscraper. And they do a little callback to that, which I'm a sucker for that. It is easy enough to do, but I appreciate it. Basically, the CRM, they'll wipe out anybody that sees their helicopter. Of course, if it's just like one or two people, they might not have even seen them, but we got this massive group of people, lots of trucks, and they're not going to go through the effort of rounding everybody up because there might not be enough people on that helicopter to pull that off. There's nowhere to put them. So they aren't going to risk it. They're just going to bomb everybody. And we've seen them do this in Fear, and I think World Beyond, we probably saw a little bit of that. They wipe out anybody that knows about them. They're keeping this secret. They're very serious about it. So they drop chemical bombs on them, and just the intensity of this scene is really well done. I think they really committed to the bit of having, people have their lungs destroyed and their skin burned, and you really feel it in this scene and the way they're talking, like, without much breath at all, and the intensity of the scene and just all the screams you hear in the background. It's a very intense scene there. So, and it just shows the excessive cruelty and evil that the CRM truly is. And we knew that already based on past shows, but they need it in this one because they don't want to assume that you've seen all that stuff. So smart to put this scene in here. Of course, I got the tragedy of the pregnant woman turning here. Michonne thinks of a place. She saw a place that might have oxygen tanks. She goes back, but it's not enough. She doesn't come back quick enough. People have already turned. And here we got Nat set these flames to stop the zombie from coming closer, I'm assuming. I'm not sure exactly what that is, but I love the symbolism and imagery of it. But we know zombies are drawn to the fire. So is that really the best idea? I don't know. Can nitpick that. It's definitely worth discussing. But just symbolically and artistically, I appreciate it. And it's a good image there. But Nat couldn't bring himself to finish off this zombie here, who's played by King Batch, by the way. And I thought they would have had him longer just because he's a big TikTok guy, right? I don't know much about him, but I knew he existed before that. But here we got Nat, very sad, and they need time to heal. And this is, just problem solving because obviously there's a big gap in time to get us from 6 years after the bridge until the time gap, after the whole first episode. So we need to bridge that. So we have this part where they need to spend time recovering before they continue on. And we show how they scavenge some food. And, we have them, talking about the past again. They're like, Danger never gave up. And this discussion of, should we go back? Should we keep going on? Michonne won't go back because she's come this far. There's a bit of a sunk cost fallacy in there, but she still has faith that Rick is out there, even though she has every reason not to think that. And Nat has nothing left at this point, and he talks about that. He's like, you're all I got. And, that's part of the reason why the group he was from is a migration group. I mentioned that before. They wrote it that way because otherwise he could just go back to them. And it would be like, why isn't he going back? So that's why they wrote it that way. But I think it all ties in. So it's smartly written, but it's definitely problem-solving writing, which I do appreciate. So I think it's well done, so I'm not complaining about it. And I love Michonne has one of her pets. She obviously found out the trick because Michonne's crafty too, so she has a little bit of that Nat energy in her as well, where she cuts the jaw off of the zombies and he's dragging the cart because Nat wanted her to drag the cart, but she's like, no. And then she has a trick of her own to add. And I love that they actually did that off screen because they didn't need to show that conversation, and we can just fill that in ourselves. So we see the harbor that we've been trying to get to. The boat is destroyed, and all of these dead bodies. Wow, what an image. And it's very disturbing and gross. And Michonne's looking for any sign of Rick, but they don't have shoes. Obviously, the CRM stripped them of anything useful because, they do have manufacturing in the CRM, but they might as well take their shoes, I guess. It just shows how cruel these people are, that they will just en masse slaughter people. And the CRM is truly evil. We know that now. We knew that before, but Michonne needs to know. And then we get this really nice scene here by a campfire, and Nat, translates the phone. It says, "Believe just a little bit longer." And I gotta wonder who wrote the phone. If it was Michonne or Rick that wrote that, maybe he got it from the Art of Peace book that he got from Okafor. But that's a bit of a stretch for me that Rick's writing in Japanese, but I don't know. It seems like a bit much. But the emotions of this scene, in all likelihood, Rick was actually on that pile of corpses there, but she can't give up yet. She won't do it. And Nat's like kind of torn. So I appreciate that he's like on both sides. He's like, I want to believe with you, but we should go back. And navigating that, I think, is really nice. And then he has the radio, which the radio throughout the franchise has been a symbol of hope. We had talking to Morgan in the early seasons. It was a sign of, I hope you're still out there. I hope you're surviving. And we have that connection with Judith here. So I think that that's just really smart symbolism and really thoughtful stuff. And here's something a lot of people last episode were like, Michonne was really accurate taking down that helicopter. And I knew it couldn't be that. They're too smart to have Michonne just on a whim learn how to shoot that accurately, because that's a hell of a shot getting a helicopter even from this distance. This is pretty close. He even comments on how they're flying pretty low. So, he makes the shot, and I love this little scrappy device that he's made, and he shoots it down. And maybe they had to kill him off because he's a little too powerful, because he just blew up a lot of people. And I love this scene, watching it play back again. I could have done without these little montage edits, showing the people that died, showing their kids, showing the original series. I can do without that stuff. I don't like that type of editing, but I understand what they were going for. And for some people, I'm sure it really worked. I didn't need it personally, but, I can live with it. And we get the reunion scene again, and then it's extended a little bit, and then we come up with a plan. Michonne can't reveal that she's Michonne, and she can't reveal that she is an A. Remember, we got the A and B last episode. Michonne can't be herself because herself is a leader, a strong person that the CRM cannot control. So they would make her an A, which is somebody that they would take for a zombie experiment. Which we learned in World Beyond. We haven't seen it on this show yet, and I like that they're careful about what pieces of information people have, because Rick doesn't even know about the zombie experiments, but we do as the audience. If you've seen all the shows, if you haven't, it doesn't even matter because the characters don't know. But he needs her to be a B, a consignee. So that's what happens. And then this is where Nat gets shot, and I instantly was like, that was a mistake. They should have kept him around. But, I've said my piece about that. But it is a convenient thing for them that they can use it, that he had the sword, that he was the one attacking, and Michonne came in and helped them. And I like that we're considering you have to not call the zombies walkers. We have to do all these things. And Rick is just very quickly, matter-of-factly, like, we have to do this if you're here. So I love the way they did this scene. And Michonne is in this close-up here. She's like smiling because she's fighting the sorrow that she just experienced and pretending that the CRM is her savior. I mean, it is a positive thing because she's reunited with Rick, but it is also a negative thing because her friend just died and she hates these people. She knows what they're capable of, so she's acting here. And I love the depth of that. And here we got another smash close-up. And it's very reminiscent of when they came to Alexandria and they're all getting recorded and interviewed, I think it makes sense that any big group would kind of have a process like this, the Commonwealth, of course. So they have to vet new people. So Michonne comes up with a story. She's Dana, and she's been alone since it started, etc. And then she's in the consignee jacket. And then Rick finds her very quickly. Nitpick is like, they should be a little bit more concerned that somebody's going to walk by, right? But we need to have this scene, right? And it does feel like, if I was Rick, I'd be like, go in there, like signal to her to go in there. You don't want to be spotted going in together, but you know, whatever. Need this scene right now, and we don't want to spend too much more time on it. It's fair enough. That's just a nitpick. It's not, doesn't hurt my enjoyment at all. We got this scene here where we're talking about Judith. We're talking about how evil the CRM is, that Rick couldn't get back, and Michonne finds out about the chopping the arm off. It's reiterating information we already have, but it's very crucial that we see this discussion between them together. So it's a great scene, very well done. Not a lot to break down though, so we're going to skip past it. And of course we got the recording of Michonne, and now we know somebody knows, and of course it's Jadis, who I like that they haven't had her in the show to this point. We knew she was coming, of course, but now that is the threat to them, that Jadis is going to find out that Michonne is back. And I love this massive sightline, solid CGI patchwork. It's well done, and I like the images, the distance that we get. So this is pretty cool, well done shot. And it almost, you know, with the sunlight there, kind of reminds me of Rick, you know, leaving the hospital, but maybe I'm no, it definitely is that, because the Rick leaving the hospital, he comes out and he sees one helicopter and this big army thing, but this one is actually still alive. So it's definitely reminiscent of that. I questioned myself for a second there, but no, it definitely is. So here we got an icy confrontation with Jadis, and Jadis explains that they had a long-standing agreement, because Jadis actually did like some of the people back at Alexandria, so she agreed, along with Rick, not to reveal that information. Which makes sense because, you know, we know based on World Beyond, she is fully on board with slaughtering people. She has taken part in Omaha and all of that. So we know that she is willing to do very shady things. But why didn't Alexandria get wiped out? It's because Jadis had a relationship with Gabriel, and there's probably other people there that she still likes. So she did not want to go that route. But we end this scene, it's basically just a threat. You know, Jadis is left. You know, Okafor was like, well, I will have to wipe up everybody you knew if you go back. And now Jadis is filling that same role. And she's like, I'll have to murder everybody at Alexandria if you leave. So that is a very, very strong threat. And part of me's like, Rick, you gotta kill her, bro. You gotta fucking, there's no other option. She's done. You gotta end it right now. And if they don't fight at the beginning of the next episode, I'm gonna be upset. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section. I think we covered about everything. Love this episode. Thought it was really solid, other than killing off Nat, which I'm not the biggest fan of. But I'm still really, really excited for the rest of this season. And I got this shirt. I showed it off already, but I need to get my money's worth, show it on camera, because I bought it for these videos specifically. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section. With that, we're going to be reviewing Halo this week. I might touch on Shogun. Of course, we got other shorts and things coming up on the channel. So it's been a good week for entertainment between this show, Dune Part 2, Shogun, and a lot of other things coming out now. So I hope you guys are enjoying it as much as I am. But with that, it's been your boy Shogi. We'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching, everybody. Peace out.